Breastfeeding isn't allowed if you're a teen mom. So back in high school, one of my closest friends got pregnant and gave birth to the sweetest baby boy. She stopped going to school for a while to take care of her kid, but still did online school so she could graduate with her class. One thing we would do is go to one of the local food places near the high school on Fridays, and today we decided to go to this nice Chinese place that I frequent regularly, and the little old Asian lady knows me by name. This Chinese place has a sticker on the front door that says something like breastfeeding will always be allowed, which is great since that's what my friend is more comfortable doing for her baby. After we ordered our food and hung out in this little waiting area, when the baby gets all fussy, she takes out the little cover and covers her baby and her chest as she starts to feed him. We keep talking until this woman and her son, who had to be around 10, comes in. I recognize the kid as one of the kids I looked after when I used to volunteer at a youth center. He comes up to me and starts talking to me, and then asks my friend what she is doing with the baby. Before my friend could answer, the boy's mother cuts in. "A disgusting thing is what she's doing. Don't you know better than to do that in public? And why are you even doing that if you're only a kid?" My friend has an attitude sometimes, so I try to jump in before she would start to throw things. It's not illegal. And Mrs. L is fine with it. She has a sticker on the door. Mrs. L being the little old Asian lady by the counter who was just ogling the baby a second ago. She smiles at us and continues to write some stuff down. The mother wasn't happy about this and continues with her BS. "I'm sorry, but I'm just not okay with a baby breastfeeding another baby. Can you please just stop?" she says in frustration. Mrs. L finally cuts in, and in her broken English she says, "Nursing baby is a beautiful thing. You have problem, you leave." She then taps the order on the window that leads to the kitchen and apologizes to my friend for the woman's nasty behavior. She then looks at the boy who is still next to me and says jokingly, "Your mother, she dummy, right?" This makes the boy laugh and the mother just grumble in her seat, trying to stay as far from us as she could. When my friend finished and we grabbed our food, Mrs. L threw in an extra order of eggs rolled since they were my friend's favorite. Everything was fine until Monday came and I saw the boy again. He pulls me off to the side and tells me that his mom said she doesn't like me or my friend. I just ask him if he still likes me and he says yes. Yay. "You're my child, I have the right to poison you. I'm allergic to fish/seafood. It's not the anaphylactic type of allergy, thank goodness, so I'm not going to die if I eat some, but I do throw up, have a stomachache and a massive headache for a few hours. Enough fish/seafood and I break out in small red hives over my arms." My mother didn't believe it, and as a child, I couldn't stand up to her properly. She'd force me to eat stuff with seafood or fish in it to prove I wasn't allergic, then ignore me as I was sick. One day, she held a dinner party. I was dressed up beautifully and trotted out to parade before the guests. At the time, I was around about 9, precocious for my age and absolutely fed up with my mother making me sick. When she held out a fish cutlet, fish cooked with vegetables, rolled into a ball, covered in batter and fried, for me to eat, I saw my chance. Me, loudly, "I can't eat that, I'm allergic to fish." Mother, "No, you're not. Eat it." Me, "I am allergic. I'll throw up." No Asian mother will back down in front of guests for fear of looking like she can't discipline her child. My mother grabbed the fish cutlet, shoved it to my mouth and said in her most firm voice of command, "Eat." So I ate it. Cut to about 10 minutes later. I go up to my mother and tug on her sari to get attention. Me, "I don't feel well, bath." I vomited on her, on the expensive carpet and in full view of all the guests. My mother has a reputation for being a kind, generous, charitable and very religious woman, so in front of all the guests, she couldn't do anything except act sympathetic and send me off to bed to recover. She never made me eat fish or seafood again. What's your revenge on a cheating spouse? I went to pick up the last few things from her house. She had just started a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, so I stole a single piece. My spouse cheated on me 25 times that I know about. How do I know this? Because she made a list of 28 names. With dates and locations. I was number 3 and all 25 after me were while we were actively married. Granted, I knew she had been cheating. I was deployed 3 separate times between all of them. To say it was a toxic relationship was an understatement. I had a child with her and so I stayed. The last person I actually caught her with in my bed was from my church. She always said if I didn't do enter excuse, then she wouldn't cheat. I didn't even want revenge. I just wanted my kids and I to be happy. So when I caught her I just said, "You're done." And with the other man still in my bed she said, "If you leave me I'll kill myself." Normally I'd say please baby don't. It's not worth it. This time I just said, bye. Ever since then I've gained full custody of my 2 beautiful children, and I couldn't be more happy. So my revenge was just finally being happy honestly. She cheated on me at least 5 times with random dudes. I stayed for my beautiful, wonderful stepchildren. She eventually left me for some guy who got out of prison for child pornography. She's still with him, but it turns out laws on where sex offenders live are pretty strict in most states. I've gotten her evicted from her home 4 times and counting. My kids are with their grandma because I have no legal rights, but at least I know they are safe. It's sort of a hobby. While moving out I didn't want to be destructive or petty, but my sister was helping me and she sure did. I didn't let her destroy any of his video games or DVDs, but he has minor OCD about them so. She opened all of them and put the discs all back in random cases, then put them all back on the shelf in random order. Then she hid a pair of thong panties in his bed for his mistress to find. And there was a disposable camera from I can't remember what that had a few pictures left on it. If he ever gets developed, he will be greeted by the sight of her asshole. My family is the best. I remember one of my buddies, as a joke to get back at his ex, decided to buy using her credit card 50 packs of extra small condoms online and have it sent to their front door, the obvious joke being that her new fling had a small duck and couldn't satisfy her as much. She ended up calling the police on him because of this, and he ended up being forced to pay $5,000 in damages. Cheating ex lied to all of our friends saying I abused her after we broke up. Due to her cheating, none of my friends believed her and a few of her friends I met were skeptical enough to text me and ask, so one of her best friends, she had 2, who were sisters, texted me and asked me so I told her the truth and she apologized for knowing and not telling me she was hanging out with other guys. I said it was alright and asked if she wanted to get a drink. We did and hooked up a few times that week and hung out at her house. Then a week or so later I ended up hooking up with her other best friend who was the first best friend's sister. When my ex found out she blew up my phone and apparently went to her best friend's house yelling at them from outside their house till the cops showed up and made her leave. I used to babysit you, so now you have to pay for my mother's funeral. When I started high school, I have had this friend I had a lot in common with. At 15 we both were working part-time in retail, after school and on weekends. In my country if you are a minor, you can work part-time with consent of your legal guardians as soon as you are 15 or older, while receiving much smaller wage than a regular employee. We never received any pocket money from our parents, so we really needed it, and on top of that, we agreed to offer to our mothers to pay for our school supplies, clothes and bus tickets, which they gladly accepted, since we were both eldest sisters to younger siblings and our families were not rich. Everybody who worked in retail knows how much one has to endure, so every penny was a hard-earned one. My friend have had this entitled aunt, which was actually her father's half-sister, different mother. This entitled aunt was pestering my friend at her job, constantly asking for discounts and for free designer clothes for her brat. This store sold kid clothes, and very rarely there were their designer pieces, but she demanded them anyway. If she wasn't asking for free stuff, she was hovering above my friend and talking at her, making my friend's manager nervous about her hanging out with family and discussing private matters at work. Luckily, my friend was somehow able to explain it to her manager, and after the entitled aunt has been caught taking clothes out of the racks and throwing on the ground the ones she didn't like for my friend to tidy up, she was banned from the store. One day my friend received a phone call from the entitled aunt, that entitled aunt's mother has died. My friend felt sorry for her and offered her condolences, but entitled aunt had something else in mind. Entitled aunt, listen, I know you have this fancy job at this designer store. It was not a designer store. I bet you make a lot of money, so I was wondering if you could pay for my mother's funeral. My friend was taken aback by this, but thinking her aunt cannot afford even the most basic funeral, church ceremony, cremation and urn, maybe some flowers, she offered a small amount of money, one that she was saving for summer. Remember, this was not her grandmother by blood, and she has never even met her. It was not much, but could cover at least a decent urn. Entitled aunt, are you serious? My mother had many friends, she deserves a proper, big, funeral, a nice casket, a good place at the cemetery and a nice wake at a restaurant. Now this was a very tall order. The funeral she had in mind was more expensive than some weddings, mainly because of booking a restaurant and getting a nice spot to rent at cemetery is a matter of thousands a year. Nowadays a good cemetery spot in the city is a real luxury, so most people opt for cremation and a spot in an urn grove at the cemetery. Old people often save up for a nice funeral, or have some sort of an insurance. The entitled aunt's mother either didn't have any of that, or the entitled aunt just didn't want to use the money for the funeral. My friend, I don't know what to say, I don't have that kind of money. Entitled aunt, sure you do. You live at home, you don't have to pay for shit. I am sure you are keeping all of the money to buy makeup and clothes and things you don't need anyway. This is a matter of principle. How can you be so selfish? I used to babysit you for 3 years after you were born. You owe me this. This was only true to some degree. Entitled aunt really did use to babysit my friend. One summer. And she got paid for it. My friend tried to explain she only earns less than minimum wage, and suggested entitled aunt asked other adults in the family for support, but did the entitled aunt listen? She kept trying to guilt-trip my friend into paying for the funeral, so she could pretend a higher social status in front of her acquaintances on the funeral. My friend said she cannot help beyond her means again, and cancelled the call. She then called her dad and told him about this crazy stuff, and he couldn't believe the audacity of his stepsister, trying to lure money from a 15-year-old. He later found out the entitled aunt was trying to get money from some other relatives too, and only succeeded to some degree. As a revenge, entitled aunt then called up the manager of my friends, trying to get her fired, claiming she is only 14-year-old, forgetting that at 15-year we already have our IDs in my country, which we use when we sign a contract with the employer.
Hey, if you want to see more similar videos like this one on daily basis, definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on your notification to see our tomorrow's even better video.